And I want to get that question in. In fact, it's a question in two parts. And the first part, I think, from the handwriting here, is going to be asked by someone called Alex. And the second one is going to be asked by somebody called Beth. Both Hackney school students, I believe.
I'm 30, so...
Sorry, you're not... Oh, no, you're a stand-in. Sorry about that. But you don't look it.
Thank you.
Far away. Go on.
The question is, what can be done to ensure that young people in Hackney can access the many training and job opportunities that are being created in the creative tech and media companies in and around the borough?
Okay, thank you very much. And where is Beth?
The question is, what effect do you think the growing gentrification in Hackney will have on job prospects for young people, and how can we tackle the feeling that many local young people feel they are not welcome in new businesses? Right, thank you very much. Two excellent questions. I'm going to ask Melissa first.
And we've just done a report on this, which is on our website, hackneyashome.co.uk, if you wanted to download it. But we specifically looked at barriers to young people, for young people to accessing Tech City. So I'll just really briefly summarise. One, lack of systematic ways, channels to get in. Tech City is word of mouth. It's this nebulous, amorphous place. Like, how do young people even imagine it? It's not like your standard factory where you could walk in a front door. So actually getting your foot in the door, very difficult. And schools are a really important part of this in terms of arranging face-to-face meetings between entrepreneurs in Tech City or the media industries and young people. So developing those channels for young people to find their way into or to connect with Tech City, and for Tech City to connect with young people. But there's a really crucial issue, and this is this idea of cultural capital. So it's not just about financial capital, although if your only way in is through internships or work experience and you have to cover your own costs, then that is an issue as well. But cultural capital, so levels of education, the things that we talk about, the things we believe in, the way we dress. This is actually one of the biggest stumbling blocks. So the way that the young kids we were working with describe Tech City, they say, well, it's mostly white people, it's mostly people with beards. Question it. But yeah, we see them sitting in the cafes, working on their computers, and we can't go in those cafes. Mm-hmm. There's all those barriers, emotional barriers to going into this place as well. Again, I'm going to be laughed at if I go into these places. I'm going to be looked down on if I go into these places. I don't speak like them. And it goes the other way as well, talking to entrepreneurs who say, the kids that work, the young people that work in Tech City, they'll spend £250 on a festival, ticket, and they'll all talk about certain bands, and they've all been to university, so they've all got those social networks as well. Young people in Hackney don't have those kind of links or those kind of backgrounds. So what do you talk about if you're in the workplace? So there's a real organisational, cultural issue there as well about integrating, working with young people, working with Tech City. It's not all about, there's the other thing, they're talking to Tech City people, it's all about training young people. Personally, I think we need to train some of the people in Tech City to be more open to a diverse workforce.
Okay. Cheryl.
Well, I think Melissa said it really. I mean, schools are key to provide a great quality education, which Hackney schools are doing, but also those other things, providing young people with opportunities to mix with a whole diverse swathe of people. The Hackney Learning Trust have been great because they've helped schools set up links with other Hackney businesses and companies, get young people mentors from the city. Might not all be Tech City, but it's going to the city and mixing with different people, learning how to speak to adults, how to be in that sort of environment, giving them the confidence. We do quite a lot on entrepreneurial skills, so actually if the people in Tech City don't want them, they'll set up their own, and they tell me they will, which is great.
Would it be true to say, so something I often think about, children coming out of often fantastic Hackney secondary schools with fantastic qualifications, which would have been impossible to imagine even 10 years ago. But it's that sort of jump then, isn't it, into do I go to university in another city which is different? Or I often encounter young people who seem to have inhibitions or worries about that. Is that a big factor still, do you think?
It's a factor.
The feeling that we can't cross that cultural bridge, maybe.
It's a factor for some young people. Our borough is diverse. There's all sorts of young people who want to do different things. Some eager to get away and go to that far-afield university. Some want to stay in London, stay with their families. Some want apprenticeships. Some want to go straight into employment. It's giving them the confidence to make their choices, giving them the right careers advice, telling them about the opportunities, making the links with them. Meg Hillier has been doing some wonderful things for young women, where it's just a networking event. She just gets great women in a room, and then all the young women in the back, the borough in the room, and say, hey, talk to one another. And our girls come back with their little business cards, and these people really say, just email me, and it's fantastic.
Excellent, that's very encouraging. Robbie?
Two quick points. I would love to see more giving back for people who work in the creative industries, and in fact, all industries that people working in Hackney. I think a lot of people would want to do that, and I think one of the challenges they have is they have that will, but they don't know where to put it. So I think actually the council probably has a role working with the schools to kind of facilitate and bring people together and get them into schools. The second point is really about local businesses, and I think a lot of people who open businesses in Hackney, as the cereal cafe debacle kind of showed, that wasn't in Hackney, that was in Tower Hamlets. But people who open businesses don't really take that time to kind of understand the lay of the land, the kind of local sensitivities. And I think, again, it's not what people would expect most councils to do, but I think kind of given the really kind of intense dynamic with which new businesses have opened, and the kind of the division between those new businesses and what people can afford and where they feel comfortable, I think there is a job for the council in trying to work with those businesses, get them to think about disability, class, ethnicity in the way that they run their businesses, so that they're not as exclusive as they often feel to young people.
Thank you. Tunde?
Seeing there's 1 minute left, so I'll be very quick.
We can go a little bit over. But
just dealing with the question in relation to access to opportunities for young people, dissemination of information. One of the issues is a lot of young people don't know about the opportunities that are available. And once that knowledge gap is bridged, many of the concerns that we have will be allayed. And one of the solutions for that is engaging and using social media. So, for example, Hackney Council did a very good job in promoting this event on Twitter and other social media platforms, and I think the same should be adopted when promoting the opportunities. When I was growing up in the borough, I found out a lot about the things that were going on via the newspaper that was dropped through the letterbox.
All right.
Now, we have to be relevant to the times and use social media.
Very good. Okay, Jules, I'm going to ask you to wrap up as quickly as possible. Quickly back to the questioners, and then it's chucking out time.
Okay. What can be done? As the questioner asked about what to engage young people and to make what's going on in the borough feel relevant to them. Well, this borough, Hackney, is located next to the richest square mile in Europe, if not the world. And I remember when I was first getting engaged in things, I don't know, go back about, 15 years or whatever, and the stories of young people being taken to the banks and the corporate lawyers down in the city, the Linklaters and all that kind of thing, and these kind of basically marble and glass palaces. And I lost count of the amount of times that the anecdotes that came back about the kids was that they were looking around and saying, I never thought I'd be allowed in a building like this. And actually, this is kind of another version of that. And so the council is very mindful of that, and it's mindful that, kids, and the very good points that have been made, and in particular Melissa was saying about how, kids don't have the uncle that works at the BBC and, and all these, and people can't afford, free work experience and things like that. That's why it is absolutely the place of the council to engage and bring together both these new businesses and young people. And I'd like to give 3 examples quickly.
Okay.
One of them, and the first one, is take it as read that the schools are the most important thing, what they're achieving in being able, for those kids, being able to make the most of those opportunities. Because if they come out, if we rewind 20 years and kids come out without even 5, including English and maths, 5 GCSEs including English and maths, I'm sorry, these businesses aren't charities. They're not going to employ people who can't present themselves, as someone said, who can't actually engage as employers will naturally expect young people to engage. But the schools are doing a fantastic job as they've never done, 20 years ago. And the point I was going to make about schools was primaries and say Get Hackney Coding, where we've brought in and encouraging more businesses from Tech City to come in and facilitate those Get Hackney Coding sessions for young people. So at primary age, start instilling that idea that these jobs are for you as much as they are for anybody else. In fact, actually, they should be more for you because it's in your own borough and on your doorstep.
Okay.
The second thing I want to say is an example of where we took 30 unemployed young people, left school, unemployed, and we took them to Paris to meet Jean-Paul Gaultier as part of this training, engaging in fashion. And when we did it, and it got reported in the press, I was expecting people to have a right old go at this, about, what are they expecting to come out of that? How ridiculous. Funnily enough, actually, there wasn't too much snarky criticism about it. But out of those 30, 16 of them are now in full-time employment. And going from the Trampery, House of Hackney, the fashion operation in Hackney, the National Theatre, Selfridges. These were 16 people previously unemployed, and through this, the creative training they had, that facilitated them having that kind of access into those kind of jobs that they wanted, but didn't necessarily have the connections. And finally, another example is Hackney 100, where we're taking students from across our schools and getting them paid work experience in these kind of industries, and it's at London living wage. And they're making those connections, and as well as those connections that their family can't necessarily make for them, but they're also just having that first-hand experience of the world of work and having something to put on their CVs as well on their way to college, and saying, actually, I didn't just come from straight from I did come straight from school to college, but actually I have done 6 months at this architect's practice or this world-famous advertising agency, and they'll give me a reference, and I'll be going back to work for them in the summer between my first and second year at college. And all that is building that kind of social and cultural capital that isn't naturally there. Okay. And even for those, we can't do that for everybody because there just aren't enough places and businesses. But we're spreading it as widely as we possibly can. So even those people who don't actually take part, they're amongst their peer group, they can see that these jobs are for people like them.
Okay, I think you should run for mayor one day. Can we very quick responses back from our two questions, Alex and Beth? Very quick, please.
Although I am a white guy with a beard, I actually do run an agency, an online agency that I built from the ground up and employs 8 people, and that's in Farringdon. And I can assure you that's not the policy and that's not reflected in my team, although I do take the point, and I know Tech City and I know it is a bit like that. The millennials and the next generation have a natural proficiency at these things, and if we get them in as interns, a lot are not going to university because they can't afford it, and they make amazing interns that we would happily give jobs to. And I think it does come back to access, which is what everyone sort of spoke about, I suppose, and both ways I think that could be beneficial. So I am actually not aware of how I would get a young person in Hackney into our company. Okay. And I'd be happy to go into schools and talk about what the job is like, and I've done that before, sort of London College of Communication and places like that. So
fantastic.
Just on a positive note,
well
it
done.
would be nice to give something back as well.
Round of applause. And Beth, please.
2 things. Firstly, in response to your response, I'm actually one of the representatives in the UK Youth Parliament for Hackney, and in Hackney Youth Parliament, we are a great way for businesses and people to communicate with young people. So if they come to us and they communicate with young people through us, we can then spread the opportunities so more young people are aware of them. And I think the key issue is that young people don't know that the opportunities are there. They're not aware of that, and therefore they feel like the businesses don't want them, and they feel like they're not welcome. And if they were aware of them, then we might be able to tackle that, and some of their perceptions might be able to be challenged, which could help solve that problem.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have 1 or 2 quick comments from the floor, or shall we all have a natter out where the drink is? I think the second choice seems to carry the day. So I'm going to say very quickly, thank you so much to everybody for coming, for all your contributions, for all your questions, answered and unanswered. Remember that those that were not asked this evening or not answered satisfactorily, you can keep the mayor busy by sending the questions to him and he will answer them. Thank you very much to everybody on the panel. I think it's been a really productive evening, and of course there's lots more of this stuff to come in the
Keep the
year ahead.
conversation going with your neighbours. Because the thing is that these are really complicated issues that no one has got an easy solution for, and we want the discussion about that complexity to carry on, because we're not going to conclude it in one evening.
Thank you very much indeed, Jules, and thank you everybody.